Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Henning Pauli. Usually we talk about guitars, but of course, in order to do anything with guitars, unless you're playing in a band, unless you're just having fun, unless you're sitting in the living room, unless you're practicing with headphones. But usually if you want to do anything with guitars that people will be able to hear later on, which is now called content, we'll get to that, you are recording them and you're working in some kind of studio environment. Maybe you have a band, maybe you're writing jingles, maybe you're doing this professionally, or you're doing this for fun. In the end, you probably have some kind of desk, like I have here, with some kind of computer and some kind of recording gear. And that recording gear can start at a very budget price point. And for a room like this, likely will go not crazy, right? Now in bigger studios, you have speakers, because that's what it's about, maybe costing hundreds of thousands. That's pretty ridiculous. In a room like this, what would the most sensible thing be? What I run usually in here are the KSD C5s, which are sadly now discontinued. They are this big, you're gonna see in a bit when I'm replacing them here, and they're 1,400 a pop. So you're looking at, what's the math, 2,800 for the pair, which is probably for a little office recording space, maybe just a bit much. But I love these because they're small and they work in this room. I have a big studio where I've got IK Multimedia, MTM Precision, the big ones. This is where I work now. So can I improve this? Can I check out something else? Palmer has the Orbit 11s, those puppies. And they sent them and said, can you check them out? Either I'll do it in the big studio, which for these might actually make a bit more sense given the size of the room and that it's a more professional studio environment. But this is where I work now. This is where I know what it sounds like. This is where I like to do the work, meaning recording tracks and videos for the channel. So I thought, let's check it out in here. And when I saw the box, I was like, oh, these are too big for the desk, because that's my big problem. I don't have a lot of space on the desk. And as you can see, they fit perfectly on these gravity monitor stands. What's special about them? Quite a few things, actually. Do they work for a smaller environment? Yeah, as you can see. Do they work for a bigger environment? Absolutely. They pack a punch in terms of wattage, 1,400, depending on the RMSs and peaks and I don't know the numbers. I'm not gonna bore you with them or misinform you because I don't know and care. I took them out of the box, and as you can see here, that proved to be a little bit difficult because damn, these things are heavy. Usually, a speaker like this would be made from some kind of plywood or MDF, or maybe, in the case of the IK Multimedia ones, even some kind of like heavier plastic. Now these are metal. Metal! These are aluminum, and that's, yes, American friends, how you say that. You can say aluminum, I know, I'm just joking. Don't click away from the video. Love you guys. These are heavy as fuck. Maneuvering them around with the tennis elbow that I have was a bit of a problem. But the heaviness isn't just for fun. It is so that there is no resonance, or at least reduced resonance, and that they can actually make sure the sound that comes out is the sound that comes out, and the speaker isn't resonating, it isn't vibrating your desk or the stand. There is a system to the madness. As you can see, they have these big woofery things on the sides, actually on both sides. So it is a three-way speaker with the mids and the highs being coaxial on the front, meaning they're in each other. So that's an easier way to make sure it arrives at the same time where you are. And then a woofer on each side. And those are time-wise delayed, or the front is delayed probably, because those are digital speakers, meaning there's some kind of processing inside that makes sure that what you're hearing is right. What I do like about them is that the interface to tweak them to the room, which is done in a digital way, is on the top. Usually on a speaker, you put it where it is and it's all good. And then how in the world do you get to all the flicky switches in the back? Well, you have to move the speaker and then you do this and then move it back. Super annoying. Here, you can literally go on the top, go click, 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 and we're going to get to what you can click, click, click in a second. So that's well done. They have an analog input, but they also have an AES input. So you run your AES cable, should your audio interface allow for that, or your mixer, into one of the speakers, then go through to the other one, and then you pick whether you grab the left or the right signal. So definitely, given that it's AES, a very high-end system. Given that it's digital, there's a minute amount of processing happening in there, and you will get the benefit of the sound 4.5 milliseconds after it actually hits the speaker. It's not the biggest problem if you're a guitar player that then also has modelers and you're adding latency. Maybe that will bother you, but I didn't notice anything when I recorded, which is what I need to do with something like this, because you can't hear them. I cannot set up mics in this room and have you hear these speakers. That's completely ridiculous. So what I did is set them up. Then I ran the IK Multimedia ARC room calibration software. I could have used the DSP of the speakers to adjust them a bit. I, of course, listen to the speakers as they are, but I know this room is shit. Absolute shit. This one is 5 dB louder than this one, because this is in front of a curtain and a window. This is directly in front of the wall. Everything's in a corner. This room is not good without calibration. Now, these have a lot of DSP options to tweak them, but for me, I rather trust the calibration, and that's it. Now, without the calibration, it was already pretty apparent that these are very mid-focused. They have warm and thick mids, which can be fun, but it's not what I needed to do the work. I need clarity and I need to know that what I'm hearing is what I'm hearing. So I ran the IK Multimedia calibration software. So let's check out me setting this up and then running the calibration software. And of course, you can bitch about that all you want, but I put a little AI generated song under that so that there's something happening. Could have put one of my songs there, but this is more describing what's actually happening. I think it's fun.
Cables on the carpet, coffee on the desk, half-finished ideas sleeping on the dress. You rolling cardboard towers, logos facing out. Peel the plastic, set them down, turn the chaos down.
Okay, let's go through some specs before we actually go into the session. I read stuff from the Songwriting website. It's a coaxial true point source. Two pulse compensated 8-inch woofers, that's the shit on the side, coaxial 6.5 mid-range driver, and one tweeter, they're both in the middle. 400 RMS, 1000 peak, I said that. Frequency range 28 to 28 hertz, plus minus 3 dB. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Is it 28 hertz to 28 kilohertz? I don't know. Sound pressure level 160 dB. Who gives a shit about this stuff? It's a three-way system with maximum precision and clarity across the entire bandwidth and crisp, resonant, free bass. That it is because of the weight. 120 by 100 20 degrees, constant directivity provides uniform coverage. That, absolutely. With my KSDs that I usually have there, you sit in the middle and you move this much and things change. You move back and things change. There is a sweet spot that's very narrow with the KSDs. And I immediately noticed that with the Orbit 11s, I moved around the desk, I moved back, the sound stayed very uniform. That's also apparently due to a cardioid dispersion pattern, so that the wall doesn't impact it too much. The speaker really is here, not here. Technical words. There's something special about how it projects forward, not backwards, if that makes any sense. And I can absolutely hear that there's a much wider area where it sounds exactly the same as in the middle, which is great when you're actually working, maybe you're working with several people in the room. There's also a very clear, defined stereo spectrum, more than with the KSDs. Very, very spatially targeted, if that's a thing. It says here, cardioid radiation pattern in the mid and high frequency range from 250 hertz reduces room excitation, so that it's not pushing against the wall and then the wall has something to say. Advanced low-end design improves wall coupling and reduces cancellations. I said that, just in my words. Linear phase digital filters with minimal latency via high-resolution DAC and DSP at 96 kilohertz, 24-bit. So it's a good digital to analog converter, that's what they're saying. Clear control panel, yeah, we can look at that. Analog line in XLR, AES input, also XLR, IEC, blah, blah, blah. Closed die-cast aluminum housing. Talking about that, what you didn't see in the unboxing, there's a big metal ring that you can screw into the back. And I think this is a safety ring for when you're actually lifting those up on a wall or a ceiling. Why? Well, because maybe people would like to use these in Atmos. And then you actually have to have them behind you, up on the ceiling. But they're heavy as fuck. I mean, how fuck? 13.9 kilo. Also come in black, by the way, if you wanted that. But I love the white ones. There's a big ass ring that you can screw in that goes directly into the aluminum, that when you're hanging them up, you have a security harness around that, like a metal rope. That makes sense. There's also 4 points for a mounting bracket, which I assume they sell separately, so that would allow you to mount them directly on the wall. It needs to be a sturdy wall, trust me. Those are the specs. Let's go into me actually spending the day with them. Now, you're not going to hear anything, it doesn't make sense. What did I do? I produced a song for an unreleased tiny amp. It's a tiny little practice amp, and I stupidly thought, let's go and produce a full metal song with that thing mic'd. I'm not going to tell you which amp because it's unreleased, but I spent the whole day with a tiny little, very inexpensive amp, putting a mic in front of it, trying to run a full session. And the cool thing is, that needed help. That needed to be EQ'd. And for that, I needed speakers that can truthfully tell me what's happening. So here's my day.
Blank session, blinking screen, coffee stain on my old jeans. Click a tempo, build a grid, make the thunder from this chair I sit. Ghost notes in a plastic brain, steel strings screaming through the game. You and me, cold in the glow, summon a storm in this little room. Let's test out the new speakers, turn that fragile silence loud. If the walls don't shake, make it meaner, till the neighbors join the crowd. Hey! Let's test out the new speakers, every riff, every scar, every feature. If the system holds this fever, then the world can get it later. You suggest a darker chord, drag and drop, I swing the sword. Double kicks like marching teeth, perfect chaos underneath. Stack the chugs, then twist the plates, synthetic choir at the gate. You predict the perfect break, I just grin and raise the stakes. Let's test out If the walls don't shake, make it meaner. Till the neighbors join the crowd. Let's test out the new speakers. Every riff, every scar, every feature. If the system holds this fever, then the world can get it later. Red lights peaking, heart still steady. You say one more layer, I'm ready. If this room survives the hit, we'll release the wreckage. Let's test out the new speakers. Turn that fragile silence loud. If the walls don't shake, make it meaner. Till the ceiling starts to bow. Let's test out the new speakers. Every glitch, every growl, every creature. If the frames don't crack from the pressure, then we only scratch the meter.
So after picking usually I don't do anything to my guitars. If you have a good guitar sound, why in the world would you touch it? Usually I record the guitars, I put them at 0 dB, I pan them left and right, and I'm good to go, right? That's, if you have a good guitar sound, you have a good guitar sound. Now in this case, it needed help. And as you can see on the session, I don't have a lot of tracks. I really did what I usually would do. One left, one right, there's some clean guitars, and that's it. So in the track that you're going to hear at the end, there is not a lot of guitar. But that guitar needed to sound right. So I spent quite a bit of time doing a bit of EQing, getting the boxiness out of it, because it's a tiny little plastic amp. And then, taming the low and taming the top end. And those speakers absolutely allowed me to do that precisely. Talking about precisely, you also saw me programming drums. And I did notice that the transients are very pointy, they're very sharp, not too sharp, but the snares and the kicks, they hit. They are there. So everything that was really sounds like Bruce Lee going, there's not like, no, those speakers go, like chickens. If you know what I mean. Probably don't. So let's look at the panel on top. There is a pad, and I'm going to tell you something about the pad at the end. So if the speaker is too loud and you like your input level the way that it is, you can pad it. You can tweak it with a low end, mid, and high end shelf. Push this down if it's too much. So experiment with that if you feel that that mid range, and it's got quite a bit of nice full mid range, is a bit too much. Push that down and scoop it. You can of course tell it where it's on the desk. And there's a high-pass filter, there's a couple of settings for if it's on the desk and not behind the desk in a big studio, because you can run it in a small room. And then you can also say if it's on the wall or away from the wall. Now in this case, I didn't use any of that because I have a wall and have a window. None of these settings would have been right. I would have had to go to different settings because one is different than the other. And the only way to adequately do that was room calibration. You could use SonarWorks, you could use iCase Arc, or whatever room calibration you have, but it's always a good idea, no matter how high-end your speakers are, to use some room calibration system. In this room, if I didn't use it, my vocals would be over here, right? And I'd have this thick low end and lower mid-range, and the room calibration really cleans it up. That tweaking on the actual speaker can do a basic setup if your room is nicely treated. If you're in a shit room like this, run calibration and then do tweaks on the speakers as you want. So the last bit before we get to this is what it sounded like, is really just for fun. We have to do content nowadays. Now cameras are running. I would be so happy if we could live in a world where I just make music and I'm not filming it. I come from a time where I made albums and nothing was documented. I was just in a room recording music, recording jingles, recording any kind of audio, and that audio didn't require video. It's weird. That time existed. I would love to just do what you've seen so far, just the music, but you can't. You have to sit down and actually, or stand up and actually film what you've done, because otherwise you have no content. So this is what I did with the speakers in the room.
Wake up, check phone, what did I miss while I was gone? Scroll brain, half stone, everybody selling me a song. Ring light, turned on, fake laugh, hit record again. This chord feels wrong, but it might trend with the right friend.
Everything is about content. Did you film it? Did it count? Then if it happened and you did it in post, did it even get grow?
Everything is about content. Every moment needs a comment. I just wanna write a line that's true, but I'm thinking how it plays in the preview. 3 takes, 1 hook. I'm rehearsing my reactions. Cut, crop, new look. Chasing minutes of distraction. Heartache on cue. Tears time, perfect to the beat. Feels like I'm proof you can package anything as me. Oh yeah.
Everything is about content. Did you film it? Did it count? Then if it happened and you did it in post, did it even grow?
Everything is about content. Every moment needs a comment. I just wanna write a line that's true, but I'm thinking how it plays in the preview. What if I write a song and never tell a soul? Let it live in a quiet room where only I can go. Would that be wasted time or finally making sense? Is it art if no one watches? Can I live with that suspense?
Okay, let's listen to the track. I took all little clips of the actual amp out, but here's a little bit of that song.
Small things, tiny sting, pleasure, agony's measure. A little bite, fades to black. Fly, tiny wings, soaring high. Dancing brains fly till the little pain, whisper of gain.
So yeah, the guitars are not the very greatest, but there's one left and one right. And for a little plastic amp, I could get a pretty good result because I had something that I could trust with the EQ. That's the whole point of a nice speaker. Now, these are not super budget. They're about $789 right now a piece. So they're not your most budget speaker, but as soon as you touch them and you lift them up, you're like, oh, this is different. I've never had a speaker of that weight. I've never, in that size, I've never had a speaker made out of a full aluminum chassis. These are not what you would expect from Palmer. Who are Palmer to make speakers anyway? Now, honestly, the only gripe I have with them is that there is a little bit of hiss coming out of them when they're idling. Right? Now, just to make sure, right now, I'm going to unplug the cable and make sure that it's only the actual speaker making that hiss. Yes, it is. Now, you can pad them and then pump in more volume from your audio interface. That is an option. If you pad them quite a bit, the hiss goes down a little, never fully away. Now, of course, when you're working, when you're mixing, when yet there's actual audio coming, not an issue at all. You don't hear it. If you're right now completely silent in the room, doing emails, whatever, that little hiss would get on my nerves over time. I wish there was a way to maybe, I don't know, have a digital gate in there, post power amp. I don't even know how that would work. I have no idea. But I had that issue with some KRKs a while back, and I sent them back to KRK. I said, if they're in my room all day long, it was quite a bit worse with the KRKs. That's going to be an issue. So, yeah, my KSDs also have a tiny little bit of a, Grundrauschen, as we say, a little bit of a hiss. With these, maybe it's because they're right at ear level. I do hear it, and it bothers me. Will I stop hearing it if I have them here a couple days? Probably. You get used to anything. But just to let you know, that's my only issue with them. Now, I can't get used to them because these have to go back to Adam Hall, where they came from. Parma is an Adam Hall company. Of course, they commissioned this video. So for me, that's the only thing. Now, these are speakers that with a big ass eighth, can say that, on the sides, likely never need a subwoofer, right? They do pack a punch. They sound as heavy as they are, and they are a different approach, I think. What I love is definitely the stereo spectrum, the transients, the high quality on everything. When you're handling them, you know what's happening. The fact that you can be anywhere and the sound pretty much stays the same. However they're doing that, I have no idea. Very, very cool. There's a lot to like about these. And at about $1,500 for the pair, they're not cheap, but they're not ridiculous price range yet. They sold out immediately right now. As of today of the filming, it's like 13 weeks wait time. So don't think you can get them tomorrow. If you're interested, get them. You haven't heard them. I've heard them. But if you're interested in these, get them, check them out, see if you get along. That's the only way to know if a speaker works for you. Going into a store and going A, B, A, B, A, B, yes, you can do that. It doesn't tell you anything. It's not in your room with your music, your workflow. You have to buy these, set them up. If you don't get along, send them back. Most stores have a 30-day guarantee to ship stuff back. You don't even pay for that. That's really the only way to check these out. Also, I recommend these super heavy-duty gravity monitor stands. They hold these, no questions. I wish I could have had them on the table. I have space on the table. But I have a feeling that the directionality, it would have been just a little bit too low. So I would have had to have some pads angling them up. But that would have been kind of cool. I probably should have done that. That's it from here. Maybe that taught you something, maybe not. Only way to really know is, if you're interested now, get them, try them out. And there's no point in recording these. You know that. I'll put links below. Use them. That helps me. And we'll put animals at the end, as always.